Every organisation has different ways of using data and collecting data and using it efficiently. So when you're dealing with a not-for-profit with an issue as complicated as disadvantage, there's numerous sources of research, both internally and externally, to take into consideration. So it's difficult to work out what you actually need to use to address a particular focus or a particular stakeholder.
Piloting programs is important because the translation of research into policy and then practice is often very difficult for organisations, particularly non-profits. Put simply, what makes sense on paper doesn't always mean success on the ground, because every individual, family and community is different and will respond to programs in different ways.
The reason that measuring the performance of initiatives is so difficult in the not-for-profit sector is that there's so many factors. So where you're talking about a scientific trial or a medical trial, you can actually control the variables. Where you're talking about disadvantage and education, it's very, very difficult to actually control the variables around a program. So looking at the sorts of measures that are actually going to show you impact in the longer term is a much more complicated proposition. Again, that has to be done in consultation with the various stakeholders who are interested to actually work out what's going to give you a meaningful measure of benefit.
We have a responsibility to disadvantaged children and families to give the most appropriate and best quality support we can. We take this very seriously as an organisation which is evidence-based. For this reason, it's very important for the Smith family to test or pilot new programs in different contexts and carefully evaluate how well they work so that we can make an informed decision about whether to roll out the program more broadly.
Traditionally, not-for-profits measure their impact in terms of fairly simple metrics like the numbers of people participating. Increasingly, it's recognised that you need more complex measures to actually make sense of how the program is affecting and impacting upon individuals, families and the community.
Through piloting, we can determine what works and what doesn't work for a program, not only in relation to the outcomes for participants, but also how effectively we, as an organisation, facilitate the program.
It's been a delight to have everybody here, being able to use the resources of Macarthur Community College and be able to...
Not-for-profits generally in the past have looked at what they have to say to their particular stakeholders. Increasingly, what's actually going to be a better idea is collaborating with those stakeholders, be they the board, be they external stakeholders, be they corporate sponsors. So instead of asking what information they can provide, they need to think about what information they should be providing and spending time on. So it can actually be a useful exercise for the not-for-profit to streamline what they collect and actually look at using their resources more efficiently.
Detailed evaluation across the entire project life cycle is important, and we make sure that the lessons learned are channelled back into the organisation through our feedback loop, connecting practice on the ground with our research policy and program development.